Now that GCSEs are so heavily exam focused, it's critical that you're able to revise everything you need to in time for the exam. At GCSE level, you're often examined on a variety of subjects, which means that you have to adapt to different exam circumstances within a very short, concentrated period of time during exam season. One thing you can do to put yourself in a position to succeed is improve the way you do your revision timetabling and planning. So here are 7 steps to creating a GCSE revision timetable that works. To demo this, I'm going to use Google Calendar, but you should feel free to use any other calendar app or even a handmade calendar written out on paper. Do whatever you feel most comfortable with. The reason why a digital calendar is preferable in my view is because you can easily make edits, and we're likely to be making a few of these, as flexibility is an important part of effective revision timetabling. I'll come to this point later. A digital calendar can also be accessed on your smartphone, meaning you can refer to it anytime you like. This is another benefit, and it ensures we're clear on what needs to be done and when the majority of the time. And this creates less chance for distraction between tasks. The first step is to figure out how much time you have to revise. Are you currently on school holidays and have a set period of time in which you could get some revision done before you go back to school? Is it term time, but you want to get some revision in before and after school? Is it exam season and you're on study leave? In this example, let's say I have 6 weeks to revise. 3 of them, let's say I'm at school, and for the other 3, I'm on holiday. If you have your exam timetable already, you should use it to pace your revision against for each subject. It's important to set a deadline even if you don't have your exam timetable yet, just so you have something to work towards. Also, make sure you fill in your commitments and day-to-day activities. For example, when you're at school, having meals, exercising, or just doing other hobbies and activities you do during your standard week, whether it's term time or the holidays. If you can, leave a 3 to 4 day buffer period free before the deadline, just so you can review any topics that you desperately need to before you have the exam. In step 2, you need to prioritize your subjects. This next step requires some introspection. You need to list out all the subjects you're taking in order of how confident you currently feel about them. Write the subjects you're weakest at towards the top and those where you're strongest towards the bottom. Give each of them a number as a reminder for when you input them into your timetable. Let's say I'm taking 10 GCSEs. Here they are, broken out on a spreadsheet. You can do this by hand or using a Word doc if you'd prefer to. It doesn't matter. There are a number of key things I recommend you keep in mind when you're making this list. 1. The volume of material to be learned within each subject. For example, in GCSE, English and history tend to have the most subject matter to be understood and memorized. This is because there are a wide range of essay-based questions which could come up on the exam. Number 2, take into account mark weightings within subjects. You shouldn't mark yourself down as confident in a subject just because you feel confident about 7 out of the 10 possible topics which could come up. If the 3 you don't know are usually heavily weighted and carry the most marks in the exam. For example, let's say you're great at probability, adding fractions, and rereading graphs in maths, but one topic you're not confident about is the basics of algebra. This would mean that you really need to prioritize maths as a subject because algebra and a basic understanding of how equations are solved is a fundamental part of the maths GCSE syllabus, and this is going to carry a lot of marks throughout the exam papers. Finally, consider the subject order of your exam timetable if you have it already. You're going to have more time to revise some subjects than others based on where they are positioned within your exam timetable. Consider this when deciding which subjects you're confident about because you'll have more time to revise some subjects than others. Be honest about how you're feeling. You don't need to spend huge amounts of time on this exercise. A rough estimate is fine. The reason for doing this is to ensure we revise in a well-rounded way by not just focusing on the things we're already good at. Step 3 is to break down subjects into topics you can revise. Now you know roughly how much time you have and you've prioritized your subjects. you need to start breaking down your subjects into revisable topics. The easiest and most efficient way to do this is to refer to the syllabus or specification in each of your subjects. This contains everything you could be tested on in the exam, broken down by topic. You can find these by visiting the website of your examining board and searching for each exam you are sitting. Then, allocate 30-minute time slots in your calendar for each subject. Use colours to differentiate subjects from one another, and make sure you write the subject, topic, and priority number in the calendar. This will help you be more methodical in your approach. Your estimation of what you'll be able to cover each day/week doesn't have to be perfect, because a lot of this is going to change based on how quickly you're able to cover the initial topics you've chosen to revise. You don't have to revise things in chronological order as shown on the syllabus or specification either. Find a balance between subjects and topics you're less familiar with and therefore less confident about, with those which you think you'll be able to get through quickly because you're more confident about your understanding of them. This will keep a nice balance between revision being a challenge and you making good progress. Position topics you're likely to find challenging when you know you tend to work best in the day. If anyone's watched my Snapchat or Instagram stories, you know I am a morning person. Don't go into too much unnecessary detail. Maybe plan out the first 2 weeks and then leave the last 4 as a rough guide, which you can then update based on how things are going. Step 4, it's important that you understand why we've chosen 30-minute time slots. The first reason for this is that it just breaks up the day more. It gives us an opportunity to make our revision a bit more interesting and keep things varied. The second reason for 30-minute revision sessions is this is a form of interleaved practice. Cognitive psychologists have shown that by varying what we're studying regularly, it improves our ability to discriminate between different sets of information and strengthens memory pathways. Setting a time goal for each revision session is also important, just so we're held accountable, just so we have a deadline that we can work towards and we're not kidding ourselves into thinking we're getting work done when all we're really doing is spending time at our desk. 30 minutes is also around the time recommended by the Pomodoro technique, which is a well-known study technique to improve momentum and focus. But, and this is an important but, just because you've allocated 30-minute revision slots doesn't mean you have to stop revising after 30 minutes. In fact, one of the biggest rules about this revision timetable is that you never give up momentum. Don't take a break for the sake of taking a break. Only stop revising when you consciously feel a loss of efficiency or focus. If one of your 30-minute revision sessions for one topic runs over into another topic, you've got to adjust things. And just in case you're thinking, well, if my 30-minute study sessions are going to run over into each other anyway, why don't I just create 2-hour-long study sessions and do it that way? The reason why I recommend you keep your study sessions to 30 minutes long is because I'm a big believer that work expands and contracts to fill the time you allocate to do it. And it's true, scientists have researched this. The fancy name for it is Parkinson's law. So the key things to remember here is that you're working quickly and efficiently and you're not spending any more time than you need to covering a topic. Step 5. During revision sessions, take notes, then use active recall and spaced repetition. These initial revision sessions are going to involve you taking bullet-pointed notes on A4 sheets of paper and then condensing these into bullet-pointed flashcards, which you can then use to test yourself using active recall. Testing and repetition is key. You need to be reviewing the same topics multiple times using active recall and spaced repetition techniques. This is so that you're not just taking notes in your revision sessions and understanding the information, but you're actively testing yourself on that information and memorizing it, because that's what you need to be able to do for the exam. I've linked a video in the description with some handy active recall testing techniques. You need to regularly reassess how you're feeling about your progress and knowledge in each subject so that you can decide on a date to review the information in order to make sure it's really sticking within your long-term memory. Another video is linked below in the description to do with spaced repetition. Good times to give yourself a quick test would be immediately after a note-taking session, before you go to bed that day, and then factoring in a few more tests in the days and weeks after that to ensure that the information is sticking within your long-term memory. Step 6, be flexible. You want to be scheduling in repeat testing and revision sessions for topics that you find challenging. But you're not necessarily going to know you find them challenging until you actually sit down for a revision session of that topic and start wrestling with the information. The more honest and self-aware you can be throughout this process, the better, because you're going to end up spending more time on the information you don't know, which is a good thing. Also, it's okay if you find things slow to begin with or just can't get into a good working rhythm. You will build up speed gradually if you just stick to that 30-minute time goal, and then when you have some momentum, try and push through it. Here's a tip: start with some easier information at the beginning of each session to build some initial momentum. A good technique for making sure you're covering what you need to, whilst also maintaining a timetable which can adapt to how you're progressing, is to put regular reminders in your calendar to review your progress against the syllabus for each subject, and then make some good decisions about what you need to work on over the next week or two. I recommend you slot in a review once every 3 days or once a week. Step 7, you gotta make your timetable achievable. You might not be able to cover the whole syllabus for each subject in this particular revision period, especially, let's say, if you have mock exams coming up. That's fine, as you know you'll have more time afterwards to cover the whole syllabus for the real things. A good goal to aim at for mock exams is just trying to understand the fundamentals of each subject. Secondly, you can make your revision timetable more achievable by managing your health and stress levels. You can do this by allocating time to exercise, socialize, do all the usual stuff you like doing, and generally forget about the revision for a bit. And if you followed the steps from the beginning, you should have a good start on this already. GCSE revision requires high levels of self-awareness, discipline, adaptability, and organization. As much as they're testing you for what you know in each subject, they're testing you for the 4 traits I just mentioned. And these 4 traits come in very handy in your development later on in life. Finally, I'd encourage you to refer to your timetable often in order to check how you're pacing. Some days you're going to have to put a big shift in and do more work than you usually would. Other days you can maybe afford to ease off a bit and take it easy. It's up to you to make that judgment call so you can balance and prioritize all the different things you've got going on. Thanks for watching, and I will leave you with this. If you're still wondering, so how much time do I actually have to put in order to get a certain grade? Let me tell you this. The amount of time you put into any activity is one of the key factors you can control in order to try and improve your performance. If you're putting in the most time and optimizing as much as you can to be as efficient and as effective with that time as possible, you're going to improve and you're going to go further, faster. That's the truth of it. To summarize, when it comes to revision, a particular amount of time put in does not equal a specific output. But what it does do is it gives you a great chance to try and make progress and cover what you need to. Remember to like and subscribe down below if you want to see more videos like this. I'm checking out.